Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Sunday evening, April 7, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that we're still being dominated by ridges of high pressure across the Atlantic, one right here across the southeastern United States, and another ridge of high pressure right there to the northwest of Africa. And we know these ridges of high pressure are usually responsible for sending all of those easterly trade winds across the basin. So anywhere to the south of those ridges of high pressure are getting easterly flow of winds coming off of Africa, bringing the Saharan dust across the main development region, not to mention some low-level patches of cloud which sometimes have some amount of isolated showers within them. And we can also see a trough right there across sections of the Greater Antilles, including Jamaica and Cuba. The trough is represented by the broken red line, and we can also see cold fronts right here to the north of the Caribbean associated with those blue spiked lines. If we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can see the clouds associated with that trough definitely, which was what brought the isolated shower activity to sections of Jamaica today. We can also see the clouds associated with those two cold fronts right there to the north of the Caribbean. And we can also see those low-level patches of clouds pushing from east to west in that easterly flow of wind brought about by those ridges of high pressure. We'll be talking more about the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on this post that was made on our Twitter page. Keep in mind that the posts that are made by us here at Weather Jamaica aren't only made on our Twitter page, but our Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook page. On our Twitter page or X page at Weather Jamaica, on our Instagram page at weather.jamaica, on our TikTok page at Weather Jamaica, and on our Facebook page at Weather Jamaica 876. And we highlighted the fact that there's definitely going to be a solar eclipse. You know, solar eclipse is basically when the moon gets into the path of the sun, blocking out the sunlight, casting a shadow on the earth. And we know how dangerous it can be, so ensure that you get that specific solar eclipse glasses if you don't want to damage your retina. It should be visible tomorrow, Monday, April 8th, between 11:53 a.m. and 1:55 p.m. Jamaica time. So get ready for that special event if you're interested. On another note, a post was made by Andy Hazelton on his Twitter page. Keep in mind that he actually works at NOAA, that's NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and he usually make posts about the Atlantic hurricane season that are very much accurate or actually come to fruition. And he highlighted that the latest NMME models continue to show a favorable pattern, considering the fact that there's gonna be a La Nina coming, not to mention the warming of the Atlantic as well as the main development region. So he's highlighting the fact that yes, we're gonna be having those blues across the central to eastern Pacific that represent below normal sea surface temperatures, making way for a La Nina that we all know makes the Atlantic side of the basin a bit more active with the lack of wind shear brought about by the little to no activity across the eastern Pacific. Not to mention the fact that we have a lot of warm sea surface temperatures across the Atlantic that will definitely be favorable for more in the way of rainfall. And we can see this map, this latest map that just recently came out in April for the NMME, showing those greens that represent above normal rainfall across sections of the main development region, the Caribbean, including Jamaica. So it's actually, showing us signs, showing us a crystal ball into what's to actually happen during the peak months of the hurricane season. If you actually look right here at the top right hand corner, we see 2024 ASO, and that stands for August, September, and October. So we're definitely going to be in for it. just like what most of the other models have been showing. If you're not already following Handy Hazelton, please ensure that you follow him. Alright, so let us take a look at what was predicted in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today. It was stated that we would have received some morning rainfall across sections of some northern parishes in Jamaica. Then we would have received some afternoon rainfall across the very same parishes. I don't know, northern Jamaica, we're talking about those parishes on the top side of the island. So Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. And what ended up happening? As early as 12:50 a.m., the Cuban Doppler radar images were showing those greens and yellows that represent light to moderate to even some slightly heavy rainfall affecting sections of some northern parishes, just as predicted. And then during the afternoon hours, the visible close-up satellite images of Jamaica were posted, highlighting some clouds bring some overcast skies and isolated showers to sections of mainly northern Jamaica, sections of central and western Jamaica getting in on the action as well. So sections of northern St. Catherine, northern Clarendon, northern Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Hanover gotten on some of that. And we have some of our followers on our Instagram page confirming the rainfall. Well, underscore dot underscore Ryan stating got some rain in Hanover early this morning, so that indeed confirms the rainfall for the morning. If we even take a look at the latest visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we can see what actually took place before the sun went down. The clouds definitely bring isolated showers to sections of especially Trelawney, where we see those high cold cloud tops being blown off. Sections of Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Hanover, St. James gotten under action as well. And even while the sun is going down, we still have that cloud cover over the area, and we saw that we had some slight convective activity taking place with those blues and greens that represent some high cold cloud tops, which could mean maybe it's close to thunderstorm activity, but we don't see any sparkling white, that so it didn't quite get there. But we still see those milky whitish colors that represent some amount of cloud cover across especially central Jamaica from the north coast into sections of some southern parishes. So we're still in on some amount of isolated shower activity taking place across section of eastern St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, section of Trelawney and St. Anne as we speak. And if we take a look at the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology's accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours, we can indeed see where it actually rained today. So definitely across sections of northern Jamaica, more so across those areas in the morning. And in the afternoon, we're starting to pick up on that rainfall that we just saw. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can tell we're 27 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay. And by about 2 a.m. on Monday, temperature should dip down to about 25 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 24 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18Z on Monday. When we calculate that, that's actually 1 p.m. on Monday. And we see Jamaica embedded in some yellows and some slight orange colors that represent 1 to 3 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. I know the normal temperatures for the month of April across Jamaica are about 88 degrees Fahrenheit. We take a look at the thermometer. 88 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as 30 degrees Celsius. So we should be getting anywhere from 30 to 33 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Monday. As relates to the dry air map, we can see that we're still being plagued by a lot of dry air across the entire Atlantic basin. The dry air is represented by what we see on the key at the bottom, the yellows, the oranges, the reds. The more we go to the right, the more intense this dry air is. We see Jamaica right now embedded in some yellow and some orange colors that represent some amount of dry air across our region, and that's especially due to the fact that we have some amount of Saharan dust as well. The Eastern Caribbean is clearing out of the Saharan dust for 2 p.m. on Monday's forecast. But look at that area across sections of southern Hispaniola, Jamaica. We're definitely getting in on some brown shades that represent the Saharan dust. But we're indeed grateful that it is more so in the sense of some lighter shades of browns than some dark shades of browns like what we see affecting sections of northeastern South America, not to mention that area across Africa. So yes, we might get some hazy skies. Maybe some persons' asthma or sinusitis might be triggered, but it won't be anything that too drastic. As it relates to the wave forecast, we can see more so in the way of some blues, actual blues that we can see by the key on the bottom right. They represent 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights, and that's because the winds are gonna be coming in from the east for the most part, more so from the east, northeast, on the north coast. And we see those brighter shades of greens getting into some yellow colors as well. They represent anywhere from 15 to 20 knot winds, maybe gusting to 25 knot winds, anywhere those yellows are located. And we see all of that air piling up wherever we see the blues across the island. So we might have that cloud activity building, cumulus clouds becoming possible cumulonimbus rain clouds, especially during the afternoon. And we see more of that across sections of some central and western portions of the island. And with the upper level winds coming in from the west for tomorrow, we're definitely going to be in for more of that activity across especially hilly interior areas of the island, so inland areas of the island. So definitely sections of northern St. Elizabeth, maybe getting into some southern areas as well. Section of northern Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine. We'll see exactly what unfolds with that. Either way, definitely central and western Jamaica gonna be getting in on that afternoon rainfall for tomorrow. And with the winds coming in, especially from the east and northeast, we can rule out some isolated shore activity for the north coast, especially during the morning hours. And this map from the Euro, as well as this map from the GFS, are confirming that. We're seeing the blues that represent rainfall. What time is it? 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is actually 5 a.m. Jamaica time. So definitely some more isolated shore activity in the morning for section of maybe St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. Skipping ahead to about 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 8 a.m. Jamaica time. We still see much of the same consensus in the rainfall across sections of St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland getting in on the action, maybe even spilling into sections of St. Thomas. Then by afternoon now, we're seeing the blues that represent rainfall starting to spread across central and western parishes in Jamaica. So definitely sections of Manchester, sections of St. Trelawney, sections of Northern Clarendon, St. Elizabeth, Southern St. James, Hanover and Westmoreland will definitely get in on the action. And we still see some of those blues that represent rainfall across some northeastern sections of the islands of Portland, maybe spilling into St. Thomas, getting in on some of that rainfall. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS malls are in consensus with what is being forecasted. And we can see that both the accumulated precipitation forecast maps from the Euro and the GFS are in consensus that there's going to be rainfall somewhere across Jamaica tomorrow, more so eastern, well, northeastern, central, and western Jamaica. And we see the accumulated precipitation forecast maps somewhat the same. Euro showing up to 0.23 or 0.26 of an or 0.27 of an inch, somewhere around there, especially across central Jamaica. GFS showing up to zero point 0.4 of an inch of rainfall. And we're indeed grateful that we're going to be receiving some amount of rainfall across the island tomorrow. We're in the month of April. We're starting to get in on the increase in the amount of rainfall that we usually receive, considering that we're getting into the secondary rainy season in May. You can see that spike there with that bar graph, getting up to 200 millimeters of rainfall during that month. So we'll take all the rainfall that we can get in April to get us prepared for what's to come in May. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we don't have much activity taking place across the Eastern Caribbean as we speak. We do see some clouds associated with the cold front and the trough that has induced across the Turks and Caicos, Eastern Cuba, section of Haiti and Dominican Republic getting in on the action as well. Section of Puerto Rico definitely gotten on some isolated afternoon showers. Section of Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia gotten on some of the action as well. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, we're going to be seeing the rainfall that we had across section of Puerto Rico today, especially inland areas of Puerto Rico. We see that rainfall right there affecting sections of San Juan today, more so pushing towards the north than anything else. Sections of inland areas of western Puerto Rico got in on some of the rainfall as well. And we see some hit or miss isolated patches of rainfall with those greens, but nothing too drastic, especially at this hour. As relates to what we see on the Barbados radar showing the Windward Islands, We don't see much taking place, just some hit or miss isolated showers off to the southwest of the island. As relates to the rainfall that's taking place on the weather view Doppler radar images, we do see some isolated pockets of rainfall across inland areas of Guyana, sections of Venezuela, not to mention sections of Colombia as usual. As relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18th on Monday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Monday. And we do see that we're going to be getting in on those grays, blues, and greens that represent average to below normal temperatures across sections of Florida, sections of coastal areas of the eastern United States, northeastern Cuba, majority of the Bahamas, and sections of the Turks and Caicos. While the oranges and yellows, not to mention reds that represent the above normal temperature, should be plaguing majority of the Caribbean, Northern South America, Central America, the Central and Western United States, not to mention sections of the Gulf of Mexico. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Monday, we do see that we have some amount of lighter shades of brown that represent some amount of Saharan dust that should be plaguing the southern portion of Hispaniola, section of Jamaica, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Venezuela, sections of Suriname, French Guyana, not to mention the waters of the main development region. As relates to the wave forecast for tomorrow, we do see those purples that represent anywhere from 2 to maybe 3 meter wave heights to the far south of Jamaica. As usual, that's because the winds are going to be strongest in those spots, maybe some yellows that represent 25 knot winds, while elsewhere should be getting in on those blues that represent 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights. And that's because those areas are going to be getting in on those greens that we can see by the key on the bottom right that represent anywhere from 10 to 15, maybe even gusting to 20 knots, 25 knots as usual wherever we see the yellows. Winds coming in from the east for the most part. And that relates to the rainfall forecast now. This map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both showing the rainfall that's expected within the next 24 hours. This is showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Monday. Not saying that it's going to be raining from now all the way up until then, but these are the areas that are going to be picking up the most rainfall. So sections of southeastern Cuba where we see those greens, section of Jamaica that we mentioned already, section of Belize, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, section of Nicaragua with some isolated rainfall, maybe some amount of tremendous rainfall for section of Panama, Colombia, Costa Rica might get in the action as well. And we also see somewhat of rainfall in store for sections of the US and British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Haiti, especially the Dominican Republic might get on the action as well. I wonder that when both maps from the Euro and the GFS are in consensus like this, the chance of actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.